This film doesn't announce itself the way normal movies do because it's not a normal movie. From the opening frame, the sounds buzz and crawl towards you, low and unstable, beneath the torrent of equally unsettling visuals. Under the Skin isn't loud, it isn't chaotic, and for most of its runtime, it isn't trying to scare you in any way you'd recognize. And yet, this movie has been stuck in my head for 10 years. Not because of any specific lines of dialogue or shocking plot twists. It's more of a temperature thing. Like a coldness that doesn't go away no matter how many times you rewatch it. So what makes this movie so disturbing? It isn't scaring you with a threat, it is scaring you with subtraction. It subtracts warmth, it subtracts familiarity, it subtracts the small social signals we rely on to feel human. By the time you realize something is off, you're already exposed. This exposure is most heightened across the wet stones of a freezing Scottish beach. But before we get there, before we can stand on those stones together, we need to understand how this movie conditions us. Under the Skin doesn't build fear the way most horror movies do. It doesn't constantly escalate, it erases. And by doing so, it creates something far more intimate and personal than mere shock. It creates a fear of being completely unseen. This is not a recap, folks. This is an autopsy. The premise is simple. An alien inhabits a human body. She drives through Scotland in a white van, luring men inside. They follow her into an abandoned house, and they vanish. That is the plot in a nutshell. You could jot it down on a napkin. And plot simplicity is a part of this movie's design because the horror in Under the Skin doesn't come from what the alien is doing. It comes from what her presence takes away from us. Without doing it consciously, we rely on small things to help us feel safe in this big world. Things like recognition, and warmth, and location, and reciprocity. This movie starts stripping those things away immediately. Composer Micah Levi, working with sound designer Johnny Byrne, didn't want to create music to simply accompany the imagery. They wanted to create a soundscape that was the alien's consciousness. By the time we notice something is missing, we're already inside the mechanism, and by then, we are witnessing something way worse than typical horror movie malice. We are witnessing what total indifference to us as human beings actually looks like. The first thing the film removes is warmth. Scarlett Johansson's performance isn't cold in the dramatic sense, it isn't icy rage, it isn't suppressed emotion. It's an absence of emotion. And she does it to such a standard you might even forgive her for Black Widow. Maybe. She maintains eye contact with the men she picks up, she listens, she responds, but nothing passes between them. There's no recognition, no flirtation, not even any cruelty. It's just observation, and that distinction matters. Malice at least acknowledges you. A monster that hates you still sees you. It reacts to you. It desires something from you, even if it is your life. Indifference does not. Indifference doesn't need you to exist at all. The men are hopeful and awkward and human. They smile and they adjust their postures and they search her face for signals. This forces us into a weird double awareness. We watch these men trying to fulfill the entirely human desire to connect with an attractive woman, and we relate to them, but we also feel what they can't feel. They're getting nothing back because there is nothing looking back at them. In this early scene, as she's speaking to a real Glaswegian man, not an actor, watch her face. The instant the man confirms he has a family, the humanity leaves her because he is not the demographic she's targeting.
You have family here?
Yes.
You do.
That's something I'm saying. You have.
Psychologically speaking, we rely on micro-expressions to comfort us, a softening around the eyes, a mirrored smile, or a shift in tone that says, I see you, and we're good. Those signals regulate us, they calm us down, they confirm we matter. The alien offers none of these micro-expressions. And because she doesn't, her presence quietly destabilizes us. We can feel this imbalance because we are witnessing the oldest, most natural human connection attempting to form, but fail over and over again. The repetition is deliberate. It's the same van and the same questions and the same blankness. Connection, as we are accustomed to it, is dissolved, and with it, the basic reassurance that another being recognizes your humanity, or in simpler terms, recognizes you. But a lack of warmth by itself isn't enough to totally unsettle us. This movie also needs us to believe in the world she's traveling through, and to accomplish that, it does something even stranger. The second thing the film removes is the safety buffer of cinema. Most horror films exist inside a frame you can feel. There are actors, there are sets, there's a rhythm to the performance that quietly reassures you you're watching fiction. Under the Skin dismantles that protection too. For the van sequences, Glazer used hidden cameras, and most of the men Johansson picks up are not actors. They are real Scottish men who are approached by an attractive woman in a van, and they are having what they believe are natural, normal conversations. Their awkwardness is not performed, and the hope on their faces is not scripted, and their confusion to her responses is genuine. And that matters, because when fiction becomes indistinguishable from reality, your brain stops bracing itself. It lets down its guard, and that leaves you vulnerable. You're not watching characters anymore, you're watching people. Once that shift happens, the alien is no longer contained inside a cinematic bubble. She's moving through a world that looks exactly like ours. It sounds exactly like ours too, because sound designer Johnny Burns spent 2 weeks walking through Glasgow with a microphone hidden inside his umbrella. He recorded thousands of hours of real conversations and ambient noise, and he used these recordings to make the world around the alien documentary grade authentic. The story world sounds exactly like ours does, and she sounds like nothing. Subconsciously, that discord undermines your confidence. The usual anchor points you are accustomed to leaning on, the lighting cues, the performance rhythms, the narrative framing, are no longer there. That dissolves the edges of the frame, and that means you have been repositioned. You're not watching a story anymore, you're watching behaviors, just like she is. The third thing the film removes is geography, or place, and the ability to locate yourself within that place so you can move elsewhere if need be. We don't normally have to think about these things. When the men follow her through that dark doorway, they enter a space with no coordinates, aka the void. There are no walls and no visible floor, no horizon in the distance to orient yourself to. It's just distance. She backs away, they move forward, and with every step, the world disappears a bit more. This isn't a room, nor is it a trap. In every horror movie you've ever seen, the space helps define the danger. We are in a haunted hotel, or an abandoned asylum, or a cabin in the woods. The locations are usually awful, but you recognize them, and you know where you are, and that knowledge alone gives you the false hope of a potential escape. But the void offers none of that. There is nowhere to run, because there's nowhere to stand. The men undress calmly, they sink slowly, and they dissolve even slower. That is the film denying you, the viewer, resistance. And without resistance, you're denied the catharsis struggle provides you. What you're watching isn't murder, it is reduction. Its identities breaking apart without spectacle. Psychologically, we fear the loss of self more than death. Death is an ending, but the void isn't killing them. It's removing everything they ever were. And while it's happening, they are all alone, in the dark, in utter silence. For 10 years, I believed this was the movie's horror core, or its ultimate subtraction, but it's not. It's actually a preparation. The void scene is not the movie's most devastating moment. It does completely remove geography from the equation, but after my recent rewatch, I have realized the beach scene removes so much more. The beach comes to us twice. First, in daylight. She targets an exhausted man who just selflessly rescued somebody from the water, and she strikes him in the head with a rock. As she's dragging his limp body across the beach, she doesn't acknowledge the screaming infant 10 feet away from her. The infant's crying dominates the audio. For the first time in this film, there is no sound design and no score. She doesn't even look, and when her associate alien returns to clean up the mess, it is darker and colder because hours have passed. The infant is still there and it is screaming even harder, and when he walks past it, there's no pause, there's no glancing, there's no recalibration after considering the situation. It's just about the removal of the man's telltale belongings. This is where the movie completes the pattern. Johansson's performance removes intimacy and connection. The void robs you of your bearings by removing geographical context. And the beach scene removes mercy. A crying infant triggers something primal deep within all of us. It isn't learned, it's not cultural, it's biology. When we hear that sound, we naturally orient towards it. Our bodies prepare to move, to protect it, and to hold it. That reflex is older than our language. And if that sound doesn't trigger something deep inside you personally, fuck off from this channel because you're scary. The Atlantic wind bites. The stones are unforgiving. There is no sand. There is no soft comfort. The landscape offers nothing, and neither do the aliens. Returning to the beach is a subtle move, but it's the film's cruelest. First day, then night, the same infant on the same rocks, except time has gone by, and nothing has looked at the child. And it's the weight of this detail that has eluded me for 10 years. They didn't just ignore the infant, they left it sitting. The film doesn't show us what happens next because it doesn't need to. It's already forced us to imagine it. Through this 32-inch 4K monitor with these headphones on, I can feel the cold and I can feel the rocks of this beach. That sound that triggers our protective instincts is filling my ears, yet I know I can't intervene. I can feel that baby is beyond my reach, and it kills me. That is this film's final devastating subtraction. On top of taking away warmth and fiction and location, it takes away our agency. We're made to witness suffering we can't stop, and that is what lingers. Not the unnerving imagery of the void, simply a child on wet stone, unanswered and never to be held. Under the Skin removes warmth, geographically with the cold Scottish landscapes, emotionally with our protagonist being incapable of feeling, and instinctually in our guts with the child we can't take into our arms. And that leaves us exposed. This sort of exposure is the raw, naked kind every one of us is terrified of, even if we don't realize it. The real horror of being alive is not the fear of being hunted or attacked or even hated. Those things are actually exhilarating. Because the truth is, realizing you are something the universe can walk right past without feeling any need to acknowledge is worse than death. When you watch Under the Skin again, and I hope you will, don't just watch the alien. Feel the humanity seep out of every frame. Feel the social cues vanishing, and feel the scenery chilling the blood beneath your skin. And finally, feel the instincts rising up in your chest and finding nowhere to go. This is not the horror of CGI monsters and cheap jump scares. This is the horror of wailing into the wind and the horror of being utterly exposed as a nobody. I have seen everything this genre can do, and I have never felt anything quite like that beach. And 10 years later, I'm still standing on those stones, listening, reaching out to my screen in vain. I'm Jonny Recaps, decoding fear, one movie at a time.